Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Crime Centric. This being the show where I talk about crime dramas that I watch. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the latest episode of Lethal Weapon as well as the latest episode of Bull. Like always, if I'm talking about something you don't want to listen to, you can always look in the description down below. I include a time when I start talking about each of the respective shows. So, for example, if you want to hear what I have to say about this week's episode of Lethal Weapon, you can skip what I have to say about this week's episode of Bull. But the first thing I'm going to talk about is this week's episode of Lethal Weapon. Another great episode. I love that this episode was kind of us getting to learn a little bit more about Bailey. We end up finding out she has a sister and everything. Her sister Jess. It seems like their story is kind of obviously the main focus of the episode, just because of the whole situation of like Jess. Basically, her sister's kind of a bit of a troublemaker, which is just kind of interesting considering who Bailey is. Bailey's like, you kind of see it in the episode too. Like, she's very like all about the rules and everything. Like, especially later on, because she's telling Avery like, I'm gonna take a leave. It's like, why? It's like, no, because the fact of the matter is I found myself crossing the line just because it's my sister. So I feel like it's like, how can I forgive myself for that? Which is kind of interesting because Avery's kind of does some shady stuff in the past. We kind of learned that about him in season 1. So I'm sure he's a lot more forgiving about that whole situation. And also considering the circumstances, it's your sister too. So, but just the fact is that Bailey would do that, because I love like when things kind of went wrong when they were using Jess as bait at like Riggs and Roger are like bouncing back and forth between the blame, and Bailey are like, you know what? Nope, it's not their fault. It's mine. And then they're kind of looking at like, what are you doing, Bailey? What? This ain't the point where you like take the blame on yourself. This is the point where you start blaming someone else. Like, yeah, say like it's his fault. No, it's his fault. So I was like, that's so good. Kind of just shows you the big difference between Riggs and Roger compared to Bailey, So I also like that the teams kind of switched up a little bit this episode. Obviously, Riggs went with Bailey, and I love that he made that whole scene. It's like, Roger left me at the crime scene. He didn't take me. It's like, and Avery's like, what? You didn't take your partner with you? It's like, no, because he lost his car, obviously. It's like, I didn't lose it. It's like, doesn't matter. Avery's like, it doesn't matter. That's your partner. You're going to leave him at the crime scene? You're not even going to offer him, you're going to just leave him? What? You're such almost like, he's so offended. It's almost like, oh, you're a monster. And then Riggs is like, you know what? So you're going through some things right now. So I'm going to work with Bailey. Avery's like, yeah, obviously you should. I mean, because obviously, Roger, you're going through some things. You have Roger looking like, what the fuck is going on here? That's why I just love and appreciate Avery as a captain. He's so amazing because he realizes the BS that's going around him, but he still lets the team kind of get away with a lot of stuff, because it's like, oh yeah, like Bowman's bringing Roger all this equipment and stuff. It's like, oh, you're trying to get a drone. It's like, oh yeah, this is all for trying to track down the car and everything. I literally just told you about the car, and you apparently requested this stuff beforehand. So he's like, I know you're lying to me. He's just squinting his eyes when like Roger and Bowman walk away. I was like, you just gotta love and appreciate Avery. But I kind of going back into the flow of things is like how it's just kind of interesting because Jess is kind of like, she's almost kind of like very like, I guess free spirited would be the closest thing, because it's just kind of like, come on, like, oh, you're just so, almost like you take things too serious. You just think the worst of everything. You think I'm an idiot. It's like, obviously we pay for the room with cash, but then we like, got room service and we put it on plastic, and it's just kind of like, it's just so interesting. But we kind of learned a little bit about Bailey's family situation. In fact, I don't think their dad ever came up in the conversation, but their mom did. Like, their mom died. Because it was a situation where like Bailey had made a comment earlier in the episode being like, she's like, oh, you sound like my mom. It's like, our mom wasn't much of a mom to you. So I guess in that sense, it was more like their mom, like Jess was probably super young when their mom died. I'm guessing that's what that was kind of hinting at. Because I didn't know whether that was a situation of like, whether it's just like what she was trying to say, like Jess wasn't like very, I didn't know, like, I didn't know how to really interpret it, but now I'm guessing it's just like Jess was super young, so their mom wasn't there to be a mom for them, so Bailey had to be that, and for Bailey, it's just like the moment she got the chance, she left, because it was just, too much, like, she couldn't probably, like, sit around to be a sister and a mom to her sister, so especially because it seems like, she kind of brings it up, it seems like she's constantly bailing, like, Jess out of trouble, and it's just like, I always give you the benefit of the doubt, and you just kind of throw it in my face, so it was just kind of interesting dynamic to kind of see between them, which also coincides with Riggs' side of the story in this episode too, because for him it's like he's getting a letter about his dad, kind of parole hearing and stuff like that. Later on he kind of talks about it, the fact is he gets them every once in a while, but I think it seems like it's like, especially recently, it's been hitting him hard, like I say, because this season's been all about confronting his past and everything, and because it's such a maybe he had things in his life with like Miranda, for example, to kind of make things better in that case. So like I said, this is like he's gotten these before, but I think like I said, with the more recent events of his dad being more in his life, or at least popping up more in his life, kind of almost basically threatening everything that he's gonna build for himself, at least particular in this particular case, I think it's hitting him a lot harder now, like with stuff like that. But to the point he's drinking, he ended up shooting up a jukebox 6 times because it played a particular song, which I did thought was kind of interesting too, because they made note of how many times he shot it, and then later on it's like, okay, you understand why he shot it exactly 6 times, because in his drunk delusions, like Riggs was acting out of stuff connected to his dad. In this particular case, after his mom's funeral, they were at a bar. His dad kept playing this particular song over and over again. It was that particular song. He played it 6 times. So it pissed Riggs off because it reminded him probably not just of his mom, but it also reminded him of his dad. Then like his dad is like having Riggs wash him down with a hose, trying to sober him up. And like Riggs was kind of in his drunk state. Like as a cab driver was like, you were washing yourself and everything. Even he was like, "You're going through some crap, dude. You seriously need some help." And we kind of learn a little bit more about why Riggs doesn't really ask for help, why he doesn't really handle it well when people are willing to give him help. Is because his dad was kind of like, "Riggs, man, we don't ask for help," because in his mind it was like a sign of weakness. And I think on some level it always kind of translated that for Riggs, because like even with everything he's going through, he didn't confide. I kept saying confide. He didn't confide in Roger, which I think that whole situation, I love it, because it's like, okay, why is it that you told Riggs before me the whole situation about your sister Jess? It's like, well, the fact of the matter is she's kind of a mess, and Riggs kind of a mess too. And you're like, wait, what? Why? It's because like I think she figured it'd be a lot easier, because it's like, well, Riggs wouldn't really be one to kind of doesn't really follow the rules a lot, so it's like he was a better accomplice in this particular situation of like dealing with her sister, because he saw her taking the necklace, and to help her with this whole situation, he ended up dropping the glass that had like evidence that would have pointed to her sister, to give Bailey more time to talk to her sister. So I appreciate, it's kind of interesting, because it's like, I also showed you how caring Riggs is, because he understood a particular situation of like, well, family's important. And it's like, well, Bailey's a good cop and she's a friend and a colleague, so I'll help her out, especially because it's like, I don't know, I thought that was kind of a nice touch. And even Bailey was kind of like, oh, wow. They had this conversation in the car. It's like, oh, yeah, she asked about him having any siblings. And he's like, nope, it's just been me and my old man. And she kind of looks away. It makes me wonder, I don't remember she knows about his particular, like, family situation. Maybe it's come up in conversation. So, like, I don't know if it's, like, something she heard or, like, kind of offhandedly knows. But I just thought that was kind of interesting. Like it seemed like there was like she knew a lot more about that situation that she kind of let on, so. But I do like that even when it's all said and done in this episode, it does seem that Bailey and Jess's relationship is getting better, because rather than taking the money and running like she could have, the money she ended up finding later on, it's like, no, like she ended up leaving the money where it was, and then she ended up going telling Bailey. So it's kind of like, oh, I'm proud of you. And she's like, oh my God, sis, thanks for calling and ruining a nice moment we were having. And then later on, like Bailey's like, I'm gonna get the charges dropped against you. She's like, no, let it stay. Like I have to suffer the consequences for my actions, like all the stealing and stuff she did like that. So, but it does seem like they are working hard to mend their relationship, because it does seem like they are because it was like all we have is each other. So it's like, I guess outside of like I'm guessing most of their family is gone. Like I said, I don't remember their dad coming up in any conversation. So I guess after their mom passed away, they were just on their own or something like that. Not less like Bailey, when Bailey was like, oh, she had to get out. Maybe it was like, oh, their dad was there too, but maybe he was insufferable. So maybe her like Riggs kind of like understand that whole situation of kind of a dad. I don't know, like maybe their mom was the last like family they had left. Maybe there's no grandparents in the situation. I don't know. It's like all we have is each other. So that kind of makes me go like, yeah, it's definitely a situation of like she had to be big sis and mom in a situation, in Bailey's case, so. But I also appreciate Roger and Riggs' situation in this episode too, of like when it's like, oh, Riggs got shot, and it's like, oh yeah, what saved his life was his flask. And then, like, Roger was about to weep and everything. And Roger uses it against him later on, because it's like Roger's in the car and the car hits something and it explodes. And then Riggs is just standing there, like, in disbelief. And then Roger pops up out of nowhere. He's like, really? That's all you're going to do? Just stand there? He's like, what do you want me to do, Roger? Did you want me to fall to my knees and just scream out or something? Like, he's like, well, I thought you had died. I wept. And he's like, well, what do you, he's just like, you didn't even try to go in and try and save me. It's like, what? How was I supposed to save you if you exploded? I just loved their relationship. But I also love Roger doing his thing with Rihanna this episode too. Kind of using his police resources in a very good way. It kind of sucks about the whole her and Robbie, him basic, because she had her suspicions. I was like, most likely what's going to happen is she's going to find out he's not cheating with her. Turns out, in fact, he is. It's like, holy crap. Which is very interesting considering the fact is, why would, it's kind of a stupid thing anyway, because it's like, you live right next door to him. Like, you know who her dad is, her dad being a cop and everything, like, not the smartest thing. But the fact is that Roger was dedicating so many resources, getting Bowman to help him with this situation too. Also, interesting note, finding out that Bowman has his own particular music he listens to, depending on what crime he's investigating. Which is like, does that mean Bailey has to deal with that on a regular basis? That's so interesting. I wonder, how does she handle it? Is she okay with it? Is she against it? I feel like Bailey would be against it, just because I feel like she doesn't kind of she tolerates Bowman. That's just kind of how I see it. But that was just kind of interesting, and even Roger was kind of getting into it a little bit too, so. But getting back to it, like, the fact is he goes on a stakeout with Rihanna and everything. Sadly, turns out Robbie is cheating on her, and she's walks away brokenhearted, which Roger kind of confides in her later on, because the entire episode she's like, maybe I should call mom. It's like, no, don't call your mom, because Roger wants to feel like, like, hey, I can help you with these situations. You don't have to call your mom. You don't have to rely on her. You can rely on me. He just wants to be a good dad. That's all that is in that situation. And I wonder if that's what sparked what happened later on in the episode with the whole truck situation with Riggs. He's like, I was waiting for you to ask me for help. I wonder with the whole Rihanna situation, did that spark him to go, you know what, I'm going to help out with this whole Riggs situation. My partner, eventually Riggs did ask him for help. He's like, I've never gotten so blackout drunk that, like, I've lost my vehicle. Like, he's ended up in different places and stuff like that, but to have lost a vehicle like that, it does also seem like, just from one of the previews, I never really noticed that before. Maybe this is their first time showing it, but it looks like it's the same truck. It might be just a similar model, but the truck that Riggs drives, it seems like it might be his dad's truck, or at the very least a truck very similar to his. Because when they're exiting the bar, you see the truck in the front. So it's kind of like, that's kind of interesting. So it seems like he might have a constant reminder of his daddy. And like I said, it might not be the exact model because it looks different. So, I mean, it might not be the exact car, but it might be a similar model, but nevertheless. But it's one of those situations of like, well, the fact of the matter is, I like his approach to it, basically being like, hey, you're young, you got your heart broken, but that just means that your heart's going to be stronger the next time, and it'll be a lot tougher, and be ready for that next person that pops up in your life. Like for him, it's like, yeah, like he used the example of himself, like my heart is as strong as Apollo Creed when I met your mom, so, it's one of that situation. There are plenty of fish in the ocean type of situation. It's like, you're a teenager, heartbreak. This is not the worst it gets. It will, there's heavy heartbreak all across the board. Because this isn't her first relationship in the show, but I'm pretty sure it was like her first like serious relationship of being in love and everything. So, but ultimately she talks to her mom, but she does point out to her mom like, yeah, dad helped out and everything too. So that was, it kind of worked out for Roger in the end of like, okay, so I was able to help my daughter out, especially with the current situation. I'm like, I'm sure like RJ's situation too. It's like, well, I want to be there. I want to help both my children, so as a dad, and, he's always worrying too, as he's kind of pointed out in the past. So, but another thing that was kind of interesting about this episode too was the fact is that, Riggs does talk to Cahill, which I'm so glad that he did. He talked to somebody about it, but he's like, he doesn't know why that this situation still bothers him, like getting those like parole hearings things. And it's like, Cahill's like, well, that's still your dad. And for him, it's like, the fact of the matter is like, he could have had a different life, because you could definitely see the dynamic of like his dad's trying to clean up and trying to get all sober and stuff, because a social service worker was stopping by. It's like, oh, Riggs hasn't been in school for a while. She's asking questions and stuff like that. And you see this moment where his dad was like, yeah, it's just me and my boy. Ain't that right? And he slams his hand down on his, just kind of like, hey, pat on his shoulder, but kind of like a firm grabbing of Riggs, and you see Riggs kind of jump a little bit when he looks at his dad, because it caught him by surprise. I guess this was definitely around that time when his dad was very abusive towards him, because that reaction kind of makes you think that. I mean, especially because this is his dad drinking heavily. Like I said, it doesn't seem like his dad was necessarily like that before his mom died. Maybe he was, but maybe his mom was there to kind of keep I guess it's one of those situations of his mom didn't ever think about the ramifications of what that would be like. She didn't want her family to kind of go through any suffering and any pain, but it's like, probably didn't think to herself like what the aftermath of that would be. She probably never thought like her husband would fall apart like that and kind of treat their son that way, which I'm not trying to blame her. It's just one of those things. It's like, you can't foresee something like that, you would probably like, this is the man you love. You would never think he'd kind of turn into the monster that he is now, so. But the fact is that, he had a chance for a different life. He could have told that social worker, like, hey, like, things aren't good here, but he didn't. Because on some level, it's because it's like he saw the condition his dad was in. Like, his dad was the only person he had left, and he was the only person his dad had left. So I don't think he was really going to leave it's like he didn't want to be away from the only family he had. Plus he felt like, my dad needs me, so I can't leave him, no matter what the circumstances are, because this also ties into what I brought up earlier about the whole thing of like Riggs men don't ask for help, and that would have been asking for help. So it does make you wonder like how Riggs' life would have been very different if that situation had. But I mean, it's like, I guess there's give and take with it because his situation made him into the man that he is, for better or for worse. And in a lot of cases for better. I think, he became the man he is in spite of his dad, So I think that's something that, I don't know. It's just something interesting to think about. But yeah, I mean, overall, great episode. I love that dynamic. I really love, like I said, learning more about particular characters. In this particular case, learning about Bailey like that. So that was kind of interesting seeing, but also, seeing Roger with Rihanna and then Riggs dealing with his own, like, situation with his dad. So I thought it was a very beautifully done episode that obviously it kind of connects because all of them kind of deal with family issues in their own way. So there will not be an episode next week. There will be an episode the week after next. So do keep that in mind. Next episode will be in 2 weeks. So. And now moving on to this week's episode of Bull, a great episode. In this episode, Bull starts working for I forgot what the term would be that he used for her, but essentially it's a lady named Rebecca Lexington. She comes from a pretty wealthy family. She got married into one. Her husband is murdered, and basically everything points to her. I felt like even from the very beginning, I was like, man, everything is heavily pointing to her. I know it's like the spouse and everything is usually the suspect, but I was like, it felt like super fast. It's like immediately it's like, oh, her husband's dead. Oh, obviously she did it. It just like, it was so certain, but it kind of blends in with the episode because it's a situation of like, because of who she is, everyone just assumes the worst in her, which is kind of interesting. The episode never actually told you what it is exactly she's done for the public to like dislike her as much, because even like Marissa called her like the witch of something like earlier in the episode, and it's like, but we never actually expressly heard what she did. Like, it's like, oh, she said this or she's done that, but we never found out what exactly. I guess that's kind of the point, because it kind of feels into the episode of like, well, it doesn't matter what she did or said. She has this reputation, and that reputation is all that matters. So I think that kind of works in favor of the episode, and I think that's probably like a particular choice of why they made that decision to do something like that. Like, when writing the episode of like what kind of feeds into that message of the episode. You don't really know her, but all you hear are what you base on what you know about her and who she is on what you've heard about her, so. But basically Bull's on her side and trying to prove her innocence and everything, which once again, not that easy considering the fact is everyone kind of like looks at her in a certain way. Case had a few surprises. Her kind of airtight alibi with her daughter Olivia turns out to be a lie, which Bull does not appreciate it. It's something he always kind of has to deal with, because the fact of the matter is his clients rarely ever tell him everything from the beginning, which for Bull, it's like, the fact is I want to win. And when you lie to me, you make it a lot harder for me to win. That doesn't mean I think she's guilty, but the fact of the matter is you lied to me, because it turns out, for one, the family's broke, because he ended up looking at the place. It's like, no, there's no heat on. The fact is there's dust, and you're saying like, oh, like the staff has been off, they're off tonight, but it's like, no, the place looked like it hasn't been cleaned in a while, so it hasn't been staffed for a while, So not only was Olivia lying, which at first I had a feeling about that, just because like when you meet Olivia, she's kind of looking down as like, you're hiding something, which I'm sure that's immediately what Bull caught on. That's why it's like, yeah, that's why I want you and your mom to come to our offices so we can kind of go over something. I'm like, yeah, he picked up on it, because you can just tell by her behavior that something just wasn't right. She felt guilty about it. Just because it's like, well, one, it's that situation of once you tell a lie, you kind of have to make sure you keep it up, because also there's a lot of minute details like she had to like keep in mind too. But even though they came up with this kind of elaborate lie. It wasn't an elaborate lie. It was a pretty standard lie, but they didn't look into everything before they came up with the lie. Mainly because it's like, well, Rebecca knew immediately, like, if she told the truth, it's like everyone would turn against her, you know? So, things kind of get worse because it's like, well, the fact of the matter is, her real alibi is the fact that she was meeting with a divorce attorney. So it's like, okay, there's that. Then there's the fact is that her husband has a gambling problem. It's like, well, at the very least, yes, they know about the other side is probably the prosecutors are going to know about the gambling problem. But the fact is you have no motive. It's like, well, the fact of the matter is, it's like, don't tell me. And it's like, yep, there's an insurance policy for $25 million on her husband's death. And it's like, and I love Bull being like, okay, so all that stuff I was saying about everything I said after good news, forget I said anything like that. So it was kind of an uphill battle because even like immediately Danny was kind of like, I mean, Danny and much like the cops kind of were like, oh, something's not right here. Like the scene was too staged and everything. Just a lot of stuff just didn't make sense, which the fact of the matter to like in this case, it's been like a particular case. It's like, well, criminals aren't always the smartest, but I guess in this particular case, you're like with the way this criminal handled himself, you would have thought they would have handled things a lot smarter, but I don't know. I think you give some criminals a little too much credit, but it's like, hey, I mean, you saw through it anyway. But nevertheless, what's really interesting to me is ultimately finding out like the truth behind the case. I was not surprised it was set up like it was a set up suicide because it was something about just the details and everything. I was like, something's not lining up. He set this up, didn't he? Because I started thinking about his reaction at the beginning of the episode. I was like, oh my God, like I was thinking like, oh, he backed out at the last second. Like he was having reservations about it, like when things were going down. But I was like, it was suicide. He set everything up. He hired him. And it's just like, I don't know what it is, but I had an inkling like halfway through the episode. I was like, certain things in the case just made me think like that. It's just because obviously it seemed like he was prepared for it because he made sure to stay around there. He wasn't anywhere else in the house in particular. He was in that particular room. And it's just like, well, there's a chance, but it's like, just the fact is he made sure to stay in that room, you know what I mean? The whole thing at the beginning. So that just kind of stuck in my mind. So it's like he was trying to prepare for it. Because immediately my brain was like, oh my God, he had malicious intent. It's like he found out that his wife was seeing a divorce attorney and everything, so he was trying to get revenge on her. But then at the last second, was trying to back out of it. But he had his reservations. I thought that's what was going down. But turns out that's just me being super cynical. Like I said, that was my immediate thought. But it turns out, no, he did it for their sake. Because of the whole gambling issues, their family is broke. There's not even, like, he even started messing with his daughter's college funds and everything like that. So hence why his wife was trying to divorce him and everything. And to him, this was his way of it was his solution to everything. Because the fact of the matter is, it's like, if I can do this, I can leave a good chunk of money for my wife and daughter. Because the fact of the matter is, like, it's a policy. So if it's by suicide, they won't get anything. The policy won't get paid out. So why he set up this whole elaborate thing, even hiring a hitman from the dark web and everything. So, which kind of, it made me feel better. Cause I was thinking, like I said, I was thinking Jeremy was a douchebag. I was like, oh, come on, dude, you're gonna frame your wife? It's like, no, like the fact of the matter is he couldn't have anything making it look like a suicide, so he had to have everything kind of make it look like, oh, they robbed the place. But it was too clean. There was too many inconsistencies, and it was just too staged. It was meant to be staged, but sadly they did such a good job that it ended up backlashing on Rebecca, which was never his intention, which I thought, like I said, originally my thought was it was his intention, but it's like, no, that was just a sad consequence of what he did. Like, kind of similar to what I brought up with Lethal Weapon, is the situation, like, you just can't foresee the future of how things were going to play out in that particular case. So, sadly, his wife went through all this. What took me also by surprise was the fact that she didn't want to tell anyone. She was like, she wanted Henry and Bull to keep that to themselves. I'm like, why? I'm like, is it because of a family image or something like that? It's like, no, it's once again the cynic in me. Like, are you trying to keep up a public image or something? It's like, no, for the sake of their daughter, because she will gladly go to jail if it means that 25 mil can go to her daughter. Her daughter can be set up for the rest of her life. And it's like, in their current situation, it's like she doesn't have the money to give her daughter the life she deserves. It's not even about her. For her, it's like, I want to take care of my little girl, which is kind of interesting considering like the conversation Chunk had with Olivia. It's like, because Olivia wants to protect her mom, hence the whole lie and everything. That wasn't her mom's decision. That was her. She's the one that came up with everything, because it was like, for her, it's like, for her, it's like, because kind of what I brought up earlier is like people have their preconceived notions of who she is. It's like people don't, they say all these things, but no one actually knows my mom like I do. It's like, you know, it's like she's not the person that people think she is. And in this particular case, it's like people can say nasty things about her. Like, once again, we still don't know what those particular nasty things are, but it's like, look at what she did. Like, she was willing to go to jail to make sure that her little girl had a future, which is kind of interesting because that's exactly why Jeremy killed himself, to make sure that Rebecca and Olivia had a future themselves, you know. But luckily, Bull talked Olivia into talking Rebecca out of it. So they ended up presenting this in court and everything. And luckily, Rebecca was found not guilty. So, because ultimately for her, it's like, I don't care about the money, you know. It's just like, you know. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it had a happy ending. I mean, sadly, they're kind of broke and everything. But, you know, winning isn't everything, as Bull kind of said at the end. Was like, oh yeah, like I told Charlie Sheen, winning isn't everything. So, had a very nice ending to it. I mean, still sad circumstances around it, but, you know, hopefully, you know, some things will happen. Oh my God, I completely forgot. Like, I was almost going to blank out about Kendall, the lady who wrote the books. At first, I was kind of like, I kind of like that, like the twist they did to her character, because it's like, oh my God, you're such a terrible person. You want to milk this situation because it's like she has information that could prove Rebecca's innocence, but she won't give it up until Bull talks Henry and Rebecca into letting her be a part of this whole situation, kind of be behind the scenes. Initially, I thought Bull was going to cave, but it's like, nope, that entire episode, he didn't cave. And it was like, oh my God, you're hoarding this over them. You're basically like holding this evidence that can prove her innocence, and you're just going to hold on to it like that. But slowly throughout the episode, she gave more hints and stuff, pointing them in the right direction. I was like, huh. I was like, no, never. I was like, you're kind of a mystery, aren't you, Kendall? Because it turns out for her, it's like, well, I kind of listened to what you said earlier. Like, I would feel like it would haunt me. The fact is that Rebecca would be rotting in jail, and I had evidence that can prove that she did. So, but she, you know, has her ulterior motives, because it's kind of like, well, ultimately, you know, when it's all said and done, you know, when you guys do win, the fact of the matter is, like, you know, I feel like maybe you and Henry and Rebecca will be a little grateful that you'll kind of give me the inside story anyway. And Bull's like, well, yeah, but the fact of the matter is that it still comes down to if we win. She's like, I have faith in you, and kind of winks at him. I'm like, you are quite the enigma, Kendall, because she's the one that kind of helped them find everything. Because for her, she wrote about the Lexingtons, and she knows them inside and out, hence why she couldn't know the case and everything. I hope we run into her more, because she's very interesting. Like I said, I like what they started her off like, because even, like I said, I was like, she's such a douchebag. Like, how can you do this? But in the end, she came through and everything. And even Bull's kind of like, hey, let her help out and everything. So, like, she brought an interesting element to the episode in that regard. Just like, I was like, wow. At the very beginning, kind of being like, yep, I have evidence. I can prove she's innocent. I'm not going to really hand it over unless you kind of do what I ask you to. So I was like, oh, okay. Like I said, I do appreciate the kind of turn they brought to the character. So. And also, another interesting thing in this episode was Chunk's side of, like, it was just kind of a smaller side story about how the fact is that he kind of kept getting C's in this particular class. I love, like, Benny's situation of like, oh yeah, there was this old dude that was like 100 years old, had such a problem with me, you know, when it came to school. And I was like, oh, what happened? It's like, well, I'm here and he's dead. And I'm like, that's so funny in a very dark way. It's like, you know, so it kind of shows him. It's like, he kind of looked down on me, but like, look where I am now. I'm in this position that I'm in, and where is he? He's dead. Ha ha ha. It's kind of morbid. But talking to Olivia, it's like, okay, you can kind of confront the person that you have a problem with, and Chunk does. Turns out the dude is legitimately a douchebag. I was like, oh man, like Chunk's gonna talk to him, everything's gonna get switched up and everything. That's what I thought. I thought like, oh, maybe he was testing Chunk or something, and Chunk would talk to him and he'd have a change of heart. It's like, no, he's a douchebag all the way through. For him, it's like, this is a law school, and the fact of the matter is, he wrote a lot of his stuff about his time and, you know, working with Bull and this whole trial science. The fact is, he has a problem with that line of work because Chunk works for Bull, and he has a problem with people like Bull. This whole trial science thing, like in his mind, he even says to himself, they're charlatans, they're frauds. It's like, oh, if everything works out, they take the credit, but if things fail, the fact is they'll blame it on the lawyer, which Bull has never done. And if there's any losses, he blames it on himself for not doing things to the best of his ability, because for him it's all about winning, which I think coincides very heavily with a lawyer, because the fact of the matter is Bull was once a lawyer, so like let's not forget that. But it's just like this guy's attitude where Chunk is like, so you're gonna demonize me because of where I work and everything, like why should that affect anything of me trying to get this education? And because for him it's kind of like a situation of like, I guess in his mind, it's like you're spitting, like you and like your way of approaching things. It's just like you're spitting in the face of real lawyers and doing real good job in a courtroom. Like you just do a little parlor tricks and manipulate a courtroom, whereas a lawyer, which I guess the same argument can be made about a lawyer and everything, but the lawyer is a position that's always been there for such a long time. This whole trial science thing is kind of what popped up in the past 20 years. It's hoopla, essentially. And it's basically like, so you want to drop out of my class, which like Chunk's like, no, I'm not going to. And he's like, well, then shut up and accept your grade. And it's kind of like, you're such a dick for that. Like, that's such a douchebag thing. The point, in education is like, you're supposed to challenge ideas. Like, this is an idea that you don't agree with. And then the fact of the matter is, you should be a little bit more open-minded, which shows how close-minded you are in this subject. It's like, I'm not saying you should give Chunk any special exceptions or anything like that because of, but the fact of the matter is you're judging him based on his profession and stuff like that. And he's a man that's here trying to get an education, like trying to further himself, and with this law degree, maybe he can help more people, he can do good with that. But it's just in your mind, it's like, well, he's just going to spit in the face of like what a good lawyer is and blah, blah, blah. It's like, that just took me by surprise. I was like, holy crap. I wonder, are we done with that or not? And I think it's a situation much like Benny's situation. I'm like, well, the fact of the matter is Chunk one day will be like, well, the fact is I will continue my job and I will take this law education that I have. And eventually, your ignorant ass will be dead. I think is one way of looking at it. Once again, super morbid to think about, but I think that is just super messed up, So, but still, overall, great episode. Like I said, I am curious to see if that is something that will kind of pop up again. Kindle being one thing, but also that Chunk's school, because he hasn't really, which the fact of the matter is, like, hasn't only really been like 2 weeks, because the fact of the matter has been, he's like, oh yeah, how long have you been in school? Like for like 2 weeks, which I guess like this is like the first semester of it or something, because I thought that was kind of interesting. Like, that he just started classes. I thought like he's been in classes for a while. I thought like ever since Bull and them made sure to get enough money for him to take the classes and everything, I thought that was what's going to happen. But no, it turns out not to be the case. I am curious to see if that continues. Maybe there'll be stuff that is connected to Chuck's like school and education going forward. Like maybe he picks up a case from that, or maybe he just grows from his experience. Like I do kind of want to get back to this and have Chunk show that dude up. It's like, you thought I was here, but if you can't see it, but I lowered my hands. I was like, you thought I was here, and now I'm raising my hands and be like, but I'm up here, so don't underestimate my abilities. Yeah, I shouldn't have done that, and I shouldn't have explained it like that, but I did, and there it is. So, God, I'm so stupid sometimes. So, like, I would like to see that kind of come back in the future, but we'll just kind of have to wait and see. Much like Lethal Weapon, there will not be an episode of Bull next week. There will be one the week after that, though. So, no Bull next week. New Bull episode in 2 weeks. So, but really, that's all I want to talk about in this episode. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.